going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and this is it. This is the conclusion of Spider-Man week here on DSPGaming. A week where I took the time out from doing modern games per se to do a Spider-Man marathon in celebration of the release of the Amazing Spider-Man movie, which came out back on July 3rd here in the United States. And what a week it's been. First of all, a little bit of background. A lot of you may not know this, especially if you didn't watch all the playthroughs where I was talking about Spider-Man constantly, but I am a huge fan of Spider-Man. He was actually one of my favorite superheroes when I was growing up. All throughout the 90s, I actually bought the Spider-Man comic books for a big chunk there when I was a heavy comic collector. And actually, I was buying all of the Spider-Man and related books for certain crossovers that happened, including the Maximum Carnage crossover, and really got me into Spider-Man because of like crossovers like that. I was really interested, and also a fan during the Todd McFarlane days when that Spider-Man, just the comic that was just called Spider-Man, had launched and stuff like that. I kind of jumped into it because he had some crossovers with the X-Men and some other stuff going on, but yeah, I became a big fan of him in the 90s. I actually started watching the cartoon show just like everyone else when that was on TV. I thought that was an awesome show. And so I was really excited that, you know, this week I was going to have the opportunity to celebrate the character that is Spider-Man. Now, I'm a little disappointed because I was busy this week with the Spider-Man games and with some other stuff that was going on. I just did not have an opportunity to actually go see the Amazing Spider-Man movie, which is unfortunate. I know I said if I was going to see it, I would have reviewed it. I didn't see it. Bottom line is I'm probably not going to see it now until it ends up being like on demand in HD or whatever. That's how I watch most movies, you know. I wait for them to come out on demand or on Blu-ray, and I just experience them at home in high definition with my awesome surround sound system. I actually enjoy that better than going out to the theater, to be honest. And that's just me. That's just my personal preference. But yeah, so boy, did we, first of all, did we ever cover like the gamut of Spider-Man stuff, whether it was playing the new modern Amazing Spider-Man game that had just come out, and living this plot line of kind of like a modern plot line of Spider-Man where all the villains are actually mutant hybrids, like the Rhino and Vermin and Scorpion are actually animal mutant hybrids. That was really weird. But it's experiencing a really awesome open world game of Spider-Man that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and a game that was almost up to par with something like Arkham City. That was really fun. Then actually playing not one, but two games where Spider-Man is framed for setting up bombs, and basically they have the same plot. It is the same game, but seeing the big difference between a game that was released in 1991 on the Genesis and the amazing jump in quality, in gameplay and everything from 1993 on the Sega CD. I mean, the same game. This is like this game on steroids, basically, and it's a much better version. And actually, not only being able to replay some games from my childhood that I really enjoyed, like Maximum Carnage, this was one of my favorites, but being able to experience these other games of Spider-Man that I had not played growing up. I had never played either of these, and getting to play Amazing Spider-Man, even though it was a difficult game, I think it was a very fun game once you learned the patterns and how to do everything. It was very rewarding at the end of the game to beat this gauntlet of bosses and finally get the Kingpin and beat him. I really enjoyed myself. That was a lot of fun. And then also, to see things such as one game become so popular that it actually ended up getting a sequel, which ended up playing almost identical to this, but also seeing the difference between the two consoles. Because let's be honest, if you watched the Maximum Carnage playthrough, and then you watched the Separation Anxiety, you probably watched this and said, what the fuck happened? Massive downgrade in graphics, massive downgrade in sound. The gameplay was very similar, but everything else was downgraded because it was on the Genesis. Bottom line is, Super Nintendo was really good graphics-wise and sound-wise compared to the Genesis. Actually wasn't as good. The Genesis was actually released before the Super Nintendo, and so the Nintendo had better graphical capabilities and also a much better sound chip. So it was kind of funny to see the contrast of the two games, and being that this is the later game, the sequel, and it looked horrible because it was on Genesis compared to how good Maximum Carnage still looks today, even on the Super NES. And then getting to experience a game that a lot of people hold as their favorite Spider-Man game ever, I guess because as they grew up with it, you know, this was the game, this was the first Spider-Man game full 3D where you could web swing, where you could use all web abilities, and really you felt like Spider-Man playing this game. Because let's face it, it's kind of weird in these games. Sure, you're Spider-Man, but you're kind of 2D platforming. Does it really feel like Spider-Man? You know what I mean? These games, honestly, don't kind of feel like Spider-Man. You could have superimposed any other person. You could have imposed the cast of Final Fight or Streets of Rage in these two games, and you wouldn't have known the difference. It really is just side-scrolling beat-em-up, you know, with Spider-Man characters in it. This is really a game where you feel like Spider-Man, okay? But that being said, playing through this game and understanding that the game is from 2000 and seeing some of the problems and things that people of that generation of gaming had to put up with when it came to the first 3D platformers, the fact that you cannot really control the camera, the fact that the controls are kind of wonky and don't always work. And, you know, one thing I do want to say, a lot of people did defend the game and said, you know, this is our favorite game, and, you know, when you're complaining about it, we're insulted. Well, first of all, stop. But stop being insulted because someone says something about a game, okay? You know what I mean? Like, I understand if you have nostalgic feelings for a game, okay, but don't get fucking personally butthurt because someone in 2012 is playing a game from 2000 and is complaining about some of the conventions of that time that basically have changed over the past decade, and now we have games that don't have these kind of problems, okay? But the other thing is, and this has been determined by actually people from my website, thekingoffaith.com, in the forum discussion about Spider-Man Week. This game came out in 2000, okay? The DualShock controller for the PlayStation with dual thumbsticks was released in 1997. There was no reason that Neversoft didn't put in a camera control, okay? They just didn't do it. They were lazy. And even I can even think back to the days of Super Mario 64. There was a camera control. How is there no camera control in this game? So that's why I was complaining about it constantly during the playthrough. Like, this is things that could have been definitely in the game, could have been improved. Now there are other things, obviously, like instant deaths and things like that. And okay, in 2000 those were very common. But for what it is, from what I played, I did enjoy the game. I don't really like the game. I mean, it's hard to like a game that has really old conventions and things in it. I'll be honest, I grew up in the era of the 2Ds, you know, the era of the side-scrolling beat-em-ups. And so for me, these games are going to far, in my mind, outshine a game like this. But I'm sure for people who grew up with this, this is probably what you think is, you know, personally your favorite. And that's perfectly fine. So I don't understand about YouTube is when people say stuff or do stuff that, oh, how dare they not have the same opinion as me. Time to go nuts. It's like, come on, just chill out, you know? But it is what it is. It's funny. I know the playthrough has like 5 bajillion thumbs down. I don't care. Thumbs down. First of all, thumbs down don't affect me at all. And second, I mean, as long as you watch the playthrough and you enjoyed it, then that's all that matters. In fact, what I actually would like is if someone could do like a montage of the hilarious amount of deaths that I had during playing this game, because it was just a retarded amount of instant drownings and fucking just epic fails of massive proportions. I think that would be probably one of the funniest things ever. But also what I would like to see is if anyone, again, has time, if you could do some of a cool montage of all these games, all the cool moments during these games, because I really feel that Spider-Man as a character has inspired some of the most interesting games, in some cases most creative games, and he's a really strong character. He's a, you know, a unique character, a young guy who stumbles upon having this power, doesn't really know how to handle it, uses the words of his Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility, as like a guideline for his life, and kind of stumbling into supervillains and stuff and trying to figure out if he's doing the right thing with his life and what is he going to do now that he has these powers, and all the different plot lines and things that come out of it when you make video games of Spider-Man is pretty cool to see the entire gamut of it from start to finish. So I had a blast this week. I had a lot of fun playing Spider-Man games, and I had so much fun that I would like to say that I hope this isn't the last chance that I get to do it. First of all, this summer I have many different marathons planned in the downtime when there are several weeks here where there's no new games. So understand that there is more of this kind of thing coming. But in particular when it comes to Spider-Man, there's still a lot of games that are, I think are probably really good, or could also be really funny to see me fail at, but I haven't gotten to. And just to show you the ones that I actually have, some of which I just bought yesterday because we went to Game Exchange, you know, the used game store that's nearby me here, and I still have Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro for the PS1, which some people said if I had problems with the first Spider-Man game, I'm going to do way worse on this one. That could be pretty funny. I'd like to play this at some point. Spider-Man 2, which some people still hold as they say this is the best Spider-Man video game ever made. Open world gameplay. similar to Amazing Spider-Man that I played this past week. So this is something that I'm looking forward to eventually trying out. And then another game that a lot of people ask me for, Ultimate Spider-Man, which I could only find on the GameCube, by the way. I'm not sure if it's on like other systems, but yeah, I mean, another game where it's part of the, I believe it's the Ultimates universe, Spider-Man, and you know, just another cool game that people recommended. So what I would like to say is, don't think by any means that Spider-Man week means that this is the end of Spider-Man. Let me put it to you this way. I'm absolutely sure with the amount of money that Amazing Spider-Man has made at the box office this past week, they're going to do a sequel, and they're probably going to do it relatively soon. I would almost say probably in about 2 years, probably summer of 2014, you'll be seeing Amazing Spider-Man 2. That being said, I already have a massive head start on the games that I'll be playing when I do my marathon in celebration of that. So plan on it. Eventually I will be getting to these games. It's not going to be anytime soon. I kind of Spider-Man'd out for now, you know what I mean, after a whole week of Spider-Man, but I do have games that I'm planning to eventually play in another marathon. So, that being said, I am glad that I had this opportunity to jump into the character of Spider-Man and play just, again, from start to finish, you know, 16-bit era where you had platformers, you had side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and then moving into a 3D platformer, and then eventually, you know, playing Amazing Spider-Man, which is the modern interpretation of what Spider-Man would be, and eventually going to be able to play some of the games that are in between there and advance it even more. It's interesting to see what different game developers do with the same characters and what ideas they come up with for what would be a great game or a good game for that character. And I was very pleased with the way the footage came out. I do apologize because this week there were a lot of problems with YouTube. YouTube, for whatever reason, not generating thumbnails for certain videos, not actually allowing some of my videos to process fully and then show up in HD, which is real bullshit. But I kind of looked out because the games that I did it to, for example, they're not high-definition games, so you really didn't miss any quality because these didn't render in HD. I'm really hoping that YouTube gets to the bottom of whatever the hell's been going on relatively shortly, because that's going to really piss me off if a new game comes out and I'm trying to play it and half my parts aren't rendering in HD. But that is something that you probably experienced this week. If you look at the Spider-Man videos and you notice, hey, there's a thumbnail. Phil never puts in custom thumbnails. Why is that there? It's because YouTube didn't process that video properly, and I didn't want it to just have a freaking perpetual gray box forever. So overall, I had a lot of fun this week. I hope that you took the opportunity to check it out as well, to celebrate the release of the movie Spider-Man, but also to enjoy all the gameplay and really the history of Spider-Man in video games over the past 20 years. I had a blast doing it, and I hope that, obviously, you understand in some cases why there are games that I'm not going to be too pleased with, but you understand that it is 12 years later, it's the first time I'm playing it, and you have to put that into perspective. By no means am I saying that I don't understand how anyone could enjoy this game, especially if it was 2000 and there really aren't that many games that were like this or even better than this. That would make sense that people laud this as a great game. But I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to play these games this week, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And thanks for tuning in. So, for Spider-Man Week, this is DSP signing off. We may have another one in the future when another Spider-Man movie comes out. But for now, that's it. Again, with great power comes great responsibility. So remember, I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, thanks for watching the Spider-Man Week Marathon, and I will see you later for more gameplay. Peace.